Thanks for jumping on, you guys, on time. We're right here at 5:30 on a Monday afternoon. So thanks for joining us for tonight's webinar. Deanne, do you mind kind of kicking us off with the Movement Mortgage Minute?
You bet. I just thought I'd give you a brief update. Interest rates we thought were just amazing because the Fed met last week and they showed that the CPI numbers came out and inflation is getting more under control. And so the markets reacted really positively and we saw like a quarter point improvement across the board. And then so Thursday was a great day, and then Friday happened and the jobs report came out. And the good news is people have jobs and are able to get mortgages. The bad news is that it's a sign that inflation isn't likely to get under control as fast as everyone wanted to. So we're back to the rates that we had on Tuesday. So that being said, it's a very volatile market. You definitely want to have your clients lock in as soon as they can. And if you have any questions, just give me a call. I guess the message of the day, volatility continues.
Right.
Yeah, it's still busy though. I think Candace and I can both attest to that, is that it's like we've had an uptick in the last week or two in terms of deals that are actually getting negotiated. A lot of new construction properties have actually moved, when they've been sitting for several months. So that's really promising to see. So
yeah, and our phones are ringing and people and buyers are out there and they're looking for properties. So it's something to be excited about.
It is.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Deanne, for sharing. I love and I look forward to those every Monday, just so that I have information I can share with my own friends, family, clients, whoever I interact with, and what's going on with the market and rates. They always seem to ask.
So. Yeah, and really the secret is to say always check, check, because it's such a volatile market right now. So just because it was yesterday doesn't mean it is that way today. So just my advice for the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Deanne. Yeah, absolutely. So today we have, we're going to have a little bit more of an open dialogue tonight than what we normally do. I've got Candace here on the line, and today we're just going to run through some of what we're seeing out here in the industry in the field. So we've got the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to look under the hood quite a bit.
All of it.
See what's going on. Because it is busy, but we don't want to forget some of the essential elements that we've got and we're encountering. So I've got, obviously we took the time to go through and look at our phones and our emails and snag some stuff that we're seeing in the industry. So I think, let's see if I can get to the next slide. So what are people doing? I think I've had at least half a dozen agents in the last week saying, I'm not busy. What am I not doing? What am I missing? What should I be doing? And I think it's important to kind of look at, what are we seeing success with across the board? Why are agents even successful to begin with? So this is one that we've actually shared on previous webinars before, but I think it's worth bringing up again at this time. And it's like, what are people finding success with? Why are consumers choosing to work with one agent versus another? And I think as an agent who's new to the business, or even one that's experienced and is kind of having that like, oh no, like maybe I'm not as busy as I should be, maybe it's taking a look at what are you doing, and what are at least two things that you're doing better than other agents that someone would choose you over someone else that they know as a real estate agent. So one of the big ones is social proof. And I know this is true for at least Candace's business, which is 100% sphere of influence, referral-based business, is a lot of people have trust based off of what, their friends and family, who did you use when you sold your house? Who did, let me ask my friend, let me ask my family member. And I know that's really, really big in our industry. Some of the other reasons why agents might have success is because they're maintaining relationships with their sphere. So doing the networking events, going to the clubs or the Chamber of Commerce, the PTAs, whatever it is, maintaining those relationships in their personal lives. Experience and market knowledge, right? Being in the business a certain number of years can lend credibility. Caring more about helping friends or your clients find the right home instead of the paycheck. they feel it. I
Yeah,
don't know about you, Candace, but I feel like they
Yeah.
feel it,
It's a real thing, that commission breath for sure. Yeah.
yeah. Yep. And then I think what we're going to talk about really tonight are these last 4 bullet points. So, one of the reasons a lot of real estate agents come into this industry is because they've had a bad experience and they want to do better for clients. And really that comes down to communication. So, what can we do to fine tune that communication so that there is that streamlined, consistent effect with clients? Do they have the follow-up? Are they aware of everything that's going on? And then leveraging help when we need it. I can't be in all places at once. I know Candace can't either. And so when we get to a certain point where we can't do that as much as we would hope to, having the resources in tune to help us fill in the gaps. And that's important to have a great lender like Deanne here on the call tonight, or have a transaction coordinator that can help us fill in the gaps with those communications. So what I would urge each of you is to take a look at this and be like, okay, what are 2 things that I strive for and I do better than other agents, and make sure that you lean into that over the next couple months, because this is really what we're encountering right now. People are going to be busier than they've ever been. And then there's going to be some that are leaving the business, and we want to make sure that we stay in the business. That's what we want to see happen.
That's the goal.
Yep. So this is one of the good things that we're seeing. I think we're bipping around a little bit. Is we're seeing text messages converting for sphere of influence. So I've sent this to several of our agents recently, but these are text messages that are converting sphere of influence. Each one of these ones you see on the screen here has procured a consultation with a seller or a buyer. So, I mean, this is me copy and pasting from what I've been sent, what I've seen, what I've done myself. And this is what's working. Let's take the consultative approach. Let's make this professional, let's set up a time to really look at people's needs and wants in that type of way. So if you want to take a screenshot or you want to take this later at the recording, this is what's working right now. And it's working really, really well. I think Candace too, you've been seeing some good success with this too, where it's like, let's set up the appointment. Let's meet up.
Get it. Yeah. When can I get out there to go ahead and see your home? Right. Yeah.
It's the strategy session, right? I know there was a lender recently that told me he does strategy sessions with buyers. And I love that. I think that that's what they're craving. They're looking for the wise advisor. So let's be that wise advisor for them, and let's offer them the opportunity to sit down and talk about it. Follow up. So this is an example of one that I took about a week and a half ago that I went on a consult. They're not going to sell immediately, but I've got her sending me pictures of listing, like, I'm making progress in the kitchen. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. When she decides to sell, I know for a fact I will be in constant communication with her over the next several months. We will have that listing. But this is an example of what you do, follow up once you've had her on the phone. So this particular lead was a referral from a friend of mine. I said, hey, can you reach out to her? She has questions. I wish I could take her, but I'm not licensed in Washington. I said, absolutely. What's her name? What's her number? I'll only call her. Called her. I followed up after the phone call with that particular client. I also sent a message and thanked the person who referred me the business. And then once I've met with the client, I sent another follow-up to her saying, thank you so much. It was nice to meet you and Dale. For her, she was nervous about colors in the kitchen. So I was like, I'll bring my swatch book. I literally have a swatch book in my car so that when people have questions about colors, that's something that I found as one of my niches, is to have that value for people. And she's like, thank you so much. I look forward to working with you. This is what's working. We're seeing people that are doing really well with this type of communication. This is just a sample. I know Candace has her own kind of style and flair. And I know Mary is on the call too. I know she does something similar, but making sure you have that communication where maybe it's different every time, it's unique to that particular person, but the flow and the system is regimented in that way.
I think it's also important to remember with these appointments, with these buyers presentations, listing presentations, most often your buyer, your seller, they're 95% of the time, they're scared. They're scared of what you're going to think about their house. They're scared of what you're going to say their house is worth. They're buyers. They're scared of the process, like taking those steps. So just remember that too. They're probably just as scared, if not more, than you are to, go have that presentation. So.
Yep, they sure are. I mean, for this particular one, I mean, for her, she was like, my house is a mess. And, one of the strategies I've done in recent years, and I'm like, I've been through hoarder houses, I've seen it all. I've seen everything, for me, this is just to understand the condition of the home. I can look past all of that, the stuff. So make them feel comfortable. I've been through these types of homes. I've been through the fixers. I'm sure yours is not, or something like that. Make them feel comfortable and at ease, because Candace is right. They are nervous. They're scared. This is another thing we've seen working. So, all the new agents that are coming out of Rockwell and coming out and getting their license, they are being trained to get buyer agency agreements signed. So this is a sample that I used, and I can attest to it. Candace can attest to it too, that I did do this. This is an email I sent to someone I took over the phone. This was an online lead, and I was able to build enough rapport with the guy. I sent this email to him afterwards, and I got him to sign a buyer agency agreement without meeting the guy. So it's possible to do, as long as you posture yourself up on how you operate your business. So for this one, for him, I won't say his name. It was great to speak with you today regarding purchasing your investment property in South Seattle. Sounds like a fun project. I can't wait to roll up my sleeves and help you achieve this. I've done a cursory search to see what we're working with and have my feelers out to a few people in the industry. For him, is a very specific type of investment, and should have an update by the end of the week. In order for me to bring some options to the table for you, I will need an agency agreement signed. Typically, I do a 1-year agreement, but for this project, I'm willing to shorten it to 6 months so you can be nimble. You be flexible. I just sent you a digital signing for this via AuthentiSign. I know you will be impressed by the level of support and experience we have in helping fellow local business owners like you. Once our agreement is signed, we can set up a time to discuss some of the other opportunities available. So this is something that has worked. I've actually taken this same email and used it with another agent, and she also was able to get the buyer agency agreement signed.
Go ahead and take a picture, guys.
Yeah, it works. And I think for some experienced agents, and I know I was nervous to even have sent this, where I was like, oh gosh, is he even going to sign? Like, did I do the right process, And it did work. They're expecting this type of professionalism to come across in that way. But I would say if you're new to the business, they're being trained to do buyer agency agreements. So keep doing that. For more experienced, ease yourself in a little bit if you're uncomfortable introducing it. One of our more experienced agents, I was helping her introduce the buyer agency agreement this last week. And she was so nervous. She's like, what if they say this? What if they ask me questions about this? And I told her, I was like, you're already writing an offer for them. Let's just include it on that signing so that, we have that agency agreement signed, at least through the signing. And you've got their authorization to work with them for the next 6 months. You've already verbally met with them. You've already done the consultation. This is just formalizing that relationship. And gosh, she got the deal. Not only did she get that offer, but she also is going to be getting them an investment property as well in the next couple months too. And they feel a lot more comfortable because they're like, dang, I've signed an agreement with her. I'm committed to her. And she feels comfortable investing money on off-market opportunities and marketing opportunities because she has that agency agreement signed. So don't shy around it, you guys. It's starting to become the forefront of the industry right now. It wouldn't surprise me in the next couple of years if buyer agency agreements are required, just like listing agreements are. We're one of the few states that operates the way we do right now. So in Idaho, I know for a fact they are using buyer agency agreements with every single client. So it's coming. So let's get ahead of it. Let's see here. So let's look under the hood. This is what you guys are on the call for, right? Is to look at some of the bad and the uglies, right? So this is one that I think is just unfortunate. This particular One on top here was a circumstance where we were representing the buyer. We submitted an offer. They were letting Rochelle know this was not Rochelle that was doing this type of thing. She was helping one of our agents. She goes, the offer we wrote expired because one of the sellers did not respond. The listing agent could not reach her. I took the opportunity to write another offer yesterday and it was accepted. Yay. Thanks again for all your help on Thursday, yada, yada. How unfortunate is this? Because a listing agent did not respond to a buyer's agent. She lost out on an offer and this particular buyer chose a different property to go with.
Right.
I know for a fact this one was full price. So it's like you're getting a full price offer. And just because you didn't respond to the phone, how sad is that? How sad is that seller going to be when they realize that offer wasn't even presented? We don't know. So one of the things that I have found is helpful for me in my business, and I shared this with Candace earlier today, and I know she does this too, is are you as a listing agent sending, I don't know what it is, showing time stuff tends to kind of get lost, right? It's kind of gets lost in the weeds. And so take the personal approach as a listing agent and let's get that instant feedback faster. So this is one that I did for a listing last year, or I guess 2 years ago, but it's literally the same message. I send it still, even today. What did you and your clients think of this Rambler listing in the Buttes and Ording, And this was right after they showed the property. We have, as a listing agent, you can see when people have scheduled showings on showing time. Are you actually being quick about getting that feedback from that buyer's agent? I know as a buyer's agent, when you're showing 20 homes in a weekend, they all start to kind of blur together. So if you're quicker on the draw, you can actually get a lot more candid feedback. So this particular one had responded and said they really liked it. The husband was not able to be there since he was working. They may want to come back or come back for the open house. This particular buyer's agent that was responding to this, I look at that as a listing agent. I go, I'm picking up the phone and I am calling that person immediately. That is a potential offer on the table. Now I know that particular buyer was interested in the property. I have another examples I could share with you guys where they say, ooh, this wasn't a good fit. Maybe they gave some feedback on like the smell or the layout or the price, whatever it is. I'm getting that candid feedback that I can share with the seller. So let's not have the bad. Let's turn it around and make it a good with some of the communication down below. Candace, I think you wanted to share a little bit about, in this type of scenario, it's like, how unfortunate, how can we avoid this?
Well, and I think this one up top, that's just really unfortunate. It's like, but I think when you communicate up front, that communicate, set the expectations for your sellers too. I mean, the listing agent could not reach the seller. That's kind of insane. So knowing these things up front, knowing how important it is, you're going to be receiving showings, I want to get feedback, but how am I going to present these offers to you, right? Do we just email them over? So having that clear line of communication, setting the expectation up front, I think might have been able to avoid the situation. I mean, who knows? I hope nothing happened to her, but it's like, you're listing your house. Do you want to sell it? Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think these were just some examples that Candace had screenshot today from different agents that were like, what should I do? And what I think we had concluded, Candace, was just like, just pick up the phone. Let's have a conversation.
Let's have a conversation. So the seller didn't respond to our offer for the property. That means our offer was declined. Obviously, I guess. Don't assume, I would call to verify, once you hit that date, it's like, hey, just checking in on our offer. Have you had a chance to review it? Anything, don't necessarily assume, but yeah, call to verify. If it's past the expiration date, it could mean that they just didn't want to respond. But even in his case, I knew that it wasn't a lowball offer at all. So it's like, okay, why didn't you accept our offer? And then, even just get some feedback. If you did miss that opportunity, hey, I would like to at least have feedback so I know how to go forward for my clients in the future.
Yeah. And I think this one in the bottom corner, it's like a text message that we could have sent. And it's like, it's best to pick up the phone in that scenario. So this one, it
Right.
says, went to the tour of the home. Potential buyers are interested in putting in an offer. Due to some factors of the home, the offer would be coming in quite a bit low.
And so this one was a little coaching on, this client is working with an investor. So the offers that she's going to be submitting are going to be lower, which is fine, but that's why we still communicate, pick up the phone. So it's really saying to her though, rather than type that out, why don't you call the agent, find out about the activity on the property, and then give her that information so that you know, and that way it's not just kind of caught off guard. I don't ever want to be known as that agent who sends all these lowball offers, but I think simple communication of what's going on is a great way to do. And that's not a bad email, but I probably would have taken it a step further, got more information on the activity on the home, and had the phone call.
Well, and I think too, an element, you also have to be communicating with your clients too, because if they're saying, I had one recently too, where they're like, this is what I want. I want a house under I want a house under an acre, about an acre, under, this price point. And I already know, because I've been in the industry and I keep an eye on the market. I'm like, that does not exist. Instead of saying that to her, I'd be like, okay, well, let's take a look at the market. This is what it's doing. Maybe let's set up a search for her so that she can understand what things about an acre are doing in terms of price, so she can kind of get a feel and a pulse for it. Right. But I think especially with the low balls, I had a client where they're like, oh, let's just offer, $450 on the house was worth on the market for $650. It's like, ooh, let's have a conversation, about pricing with that client. Do they actually understand what that will do? Sometimes they forget. They just think, oh, the low ball will stick, and at least a low ball is better than no offer at all. And that's not always the case, right? Sellers are willing to negotiate within reason.
Right.
And that kind of goes, I think, Candace, it's the triangle. I can't remember what it's called, but it talks about, that what does 5% off the price look like? What does 10% off the price look like for how long it's been on the market? If you're offering 20% low, that's offensive, for a seller.
Well be, right.
Yeah. So I think making sure that you convey what the market is doing to your clients ahead of time before you even offer, or even while you're offering on properties. Buyer CMAs, I think, are on the rise right now. So that they feel comfortable offering full price or even above. There's still multiple offers running around right now.
Right.
So making sure that buyers feel comfortable with pricing is going to be very important as we go in the next couple months. Here's another ugly one. So this is a particular situation. This is from a while ago, but it's pretty bad. And so I think it's worth kind of going over. This was an agent that thought she could sell a house over text message. You can see her long, giant text messages. And you can see in circumstance, just sent over the offer. Let me know if you have questions. Tried to leave a message, but your mailbox is full. Can you call me this afternoon? We need to talk about the closing. Is everything okay? Do I need to step out and call you? If I get a text message saying we need to talk about the Maple Valley closing, you pick up the phone. So that you can avoid these giant long text messages like I'm seeing here in the middle. And you can see a trend here. Tried to leave a message, but your mailbox is full. I mean, it tends to be a trend. This particular transaction, you're not seeing even the full scope of it here, even in the text messages, but there are 3 dominoes. I mean, this is a home sale contingency on a home sale contingency on a home sale contingency. There are a lot of dominoes in place for that. And selling a home over text message is not going to work. You have to kind of really dig into who can be where are the moving trucks? Can we move in this place? What does possession look like? There's a lot of things to convey. And so text message is not going to be complete. We can misconstrue things. We can miss things. In this case, she's like, you didn't communicate. And I was like, I tried calling you several times with not very much response. So what I can tell you is that let's pick up the phone as a listing agent, make sure your voicemail is cleared. I know I've encountered this once where I was like, oh, you save certain things, it's best just to be on top of it, make sure you've responded to all the voicemails that come through. Because we don't want to miss a deal like the previous slide. That's the worst thing that could happen, is to miss a deal like that. And for this one, when you've got an opportunity, when you're trying to convey like this giant long text message, that's not a text message. That needs to be either an email or on the phone. Anything more than a sentence or two really should be on the phone or an email.
Right.
I think a lot of too, and Candace and I were talking about inspection responses earlier today. And we were talking about how to send screenshots and things like that to the other side with the listing agent, the buyer's agent. And text message is not the way to go, guys. It's okay to say, hey, I just sent you the 35R, but don't be negotiating over text message. You actually will have better success if you talk on the phone. A lot of newer agents think that text message, even though it's got a date stamp, that works for delivery. That's not the case. Delivery has to be an email. So make sure if you're sending a message saying, hey, here is a copy of the report or whatever, just make sure that you've also sent an email saying, hey, just like I mentioned, I sent you a text message this way. The email is really the most important way when you're conveying those notices. Did I miss anything there, Candace? I think
no, I just think though, we all interpret things differently. I mean, sometimes one person can say one thing and it's read differently from each of us, potentially. And so I think when you have questions, when it doesn't make sense, just pick up the phone, have that phone call. And that way, and make sure, okay, I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Don't be afraid to, if you're not getting a response, pick up the phone, send the text, and then send the email. I mean, it's kind of like the process. What is it called? The, process when you get a lead, you call, you text, and you email. And I think it's just to even cover yourself 100%, make sure that nothing's not being misconstrued or interpreted the wrong way. Pick up the phone and communicate. Communicate. You can't over communicate.
Yeah, for sure. It's like one of the best listing agents I think I've done a sale with, and I learned this early on. I was like, wow, I was very impressed with it, that I, took her idea and put into practice. And most listing agents, what I found, that actually do this, that are really good listing agents, when they send counter offers, when they send notices, they will email it to you, and they will also call you to kind of summarize what it is that they're sending over. And that gives an opportunity for you to convey and avoid that miscommunication that Candace is talking about, where it's like, yes, we're asking $10,000 as a credit, but this is why, this is what we found, this is what we're concerned about. I think this is pretty reasonable based off of what we're seeing, but, and that kind of gives you an opportunity to discuss what you found on those inspections or those pre-inspections. And the same thing goes for offers. It's like, yes, this is that lowball offer that we were talking about earlier. It's like, this is why we came in at this price. This is maybe the CMA that I've done myself. If, this is why we have it structured the way we do, and that type of way, it comes across as you've done your research, you've done your work, and it offers that conversation. So you guys can be on the same page. So I guess in summary, I know it's 30 minutes goes by real fast. It sure does. Every week, it really does. But always do a consult. I think I was talking on the phone with one of our agents. I think he's on here today, where he's like, I scheduled the time. I don't think we're in alignment. And he's like, I just scheduled the time to meet with her in person. And I was like, that is the best approach you can do. If ever you feel like you're out of alignment, that you're not on the same page with your client, it's always best to meet up. Sometimes you have to do it twice, right? Where it's like, I think I missed something. We're going to need to re-educate that. It's never a bad thing to say, hey, when do you have time for us to sit down? When do you have time for me to swing by the house today or something like that? It's never a bad thing to do a consultation. If anything, whenever you have that out of alignment, it just gets you right back on track. So you can refocus, especially with buyers. I had one from out of state who thought she could buy in Queen Anne and Kirkland and Bothell. And I was like, okay, we need to really fine tune. So we had her come in for a consultation, and it gets her really focused on where she wants to be. So in her case, she was transferring for Google. Well, the Google campus that she would be transferring to was in Kirkland. So I was like, okay, that's where you want to be. So get back in alignment with your clients, get the agency agreement signed, get it done early if you can. They're expecting it. In other industries, not real estate, other industries, they're used to signing agreements in order to proceed. I'm committed to you. I just need your commitment to me. It's kind of the phrase that you can use, but get it signed early. So that way you have their commitment and you feel more comfortable. You don't worry about them showing and going on open houses in the weekend and having another agent pick them up.
That's real.
Some of these site agents are getting really good at asking questions and saying, have you signed an agreement? Well, why haven't you signed an agreement with that agent? Are they actually doing, a full service work for you? This is how I work. And they can steal your clients if you don't have an agency agreement signed. So get savvy. If you're needing kind of a strategy session with just us on how you can introduce that in your marketing or in your processes, we're always happy to do a one-on-one call with you. And I think too, better to over communicate than not enough. Candace uses this philosophy, and I'll steal it, Candace, but call them before they call you, before they think to call you. And this is true for anybody. I mean, I've always been really impressed with people when they anticipate my question before I even have it. So it's best just to over communicate. Hey, this is what's going on this week. This is the timelines. This is where the lender's at. I think we had one today where the lender, we're past appraisal, but the lender hasn't given us any idea as to whether or not we're clear to close or CD is out or anything like that. It's just been crickets. So it's best to over communicate with all the parties so everybody's on the same page. Voicemails are cleared. Make sure you respond to text messages. I know it gets busy, but it's best to even respond of like, hey, let me look into that. It's okay to send that type of response as long as you follow up with it later, but make sure you respond to people so they know you're alive. I've encountered a situation too where it wasn't me, it was one of our agents, but she was submitting an offer and she's like, I can't get a hold of this listing agent. He's just not responding. In that circumstance, if you can't get a hold of someone like that, just call us. We can give you the best direction or advice in that scenario. But this one was interesting because the seller, we ended up contacting the seller, and seller's like, I don't know, I haven't heard from him either in about a month. Well, turns out we looked up and Googled the listing agent's name. The listing agent had died. So, we want to stay in communication with people for that. Clear your voicemails, clear your text messages, because you never know, people might be just looking out for you too.
Right.
So respond to those things when they come through, and when in doubt, always pick up the phone. Just by picking up the phone, you can save your clients thousands of dollars in many instances, just by negotiating or pre-negotiating things over the phone. So I think that's our highlights. Is there anything I missed, Candace, that you wanted to pipe in about?
No, that was it. This is great.
Yeah, I know 30 minutes goes by quick.
It does.
So hopefully we have some more good examples to share over the next couple months. It's getting busy, guys, and which is really good to see. I'm excited to see there's a lot of first-time home buyers. So I know that NAR released their report saying they've actually decreased in the number of transaction files that are coming through, but we're still seeing a lot of people wanting to get in and build that generational wealth. So let us know if there's anything you want to discuss or you're encountering some issues. We're always happy to help. I know Candace has time on her calendar to meet with you, and I do too. So let's strategize. Let's get you humming, needing help.
Moving and grooving.
Yep. And if you're at the point, kind of like our first slide that we had here on the plate here today, if you're at the point where you're like, gosh, I need some help to kind of fill in some of those gaps, we do have transaction coordinators we can put you in touch with. There are excellent lenders like Deanne that are willing to work with you and help you with your business in that way, so that you have a partner, build your team that way. I always think it's helpful to have lenders that are the opposite personality to me in some respects, so that, you know, they balance me out. So make sure you have that team around you to build you up, and then also fill in the gaps with communication so your clients are well taken care of. So thanks you guys for popping on. Hopefully this was helpful. We've got a lot of trainings this week. I know we've got a roundtable in Tukwila tomorrow. We also have a script class on Wednesday. So if you guys are wanting to do some dialing, let's call some people in the sphere of influence. We're back to the basics with a lot of people in terms of what's working. So let's pick up the phone. Let's make some phone calls. Let's get the market intel out to them. That's what's working. And then we'll pick it up again this coming Monday. We've got some good content coming up over the next couple of weeks. So good luck this
We
week.
also have a quick Zoom meeting on Thursday, the 9th at 11 a.m. It's on my Zoom, and the email has been sent out, and that's just about the Step Up program. So just want to have a lot of resources available, as our market is definitely changing a bit in the positive direction. So, all right, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys.
Have a good one.
week. Take care.